listen to the quiet higher self and tap in and say, hey, if I were going to move ahead with just one project for the next 6 months, which project is going to make the most impact for me? What do I want the most? Hey, it's Marie Forleo, and welcome to another episode of the Marie Forleo podcast and Marie TV, the place to be to create a business and life you love. And we're doing something we love today, which is Q&A Tuesday. And today's question comes from Dree Marie.
Hi, Marie. My name is Dree Marie, and I am in Edinburgh, Scotland. My question is, how do you prioritize your time and how do you manage your time when you still have a day job and you are just starting your business? And you have many big ideas and a huge vision and very little time to implement things. What would you advise, and what are your thoughts on this?
Dree, thank you so much. So we just played that question. I appreciate you for submitting it. And I also just want to say, oh my goodness, this is so relatable. And thank you for sharing it. So first thing, I don't know if you know this, there was actually quite a big study done in the US where they tracked about 5,000 entrepreneurs over 14 years. And guess what they found? That entrepreneurs who started companies while they still had a day job were 33% less likely to fail. Meaning,
wow.
Yes. And so I always like to trot out that little study because that was me when I started my business. I had multiple day jobs, and I know so many successful business owners who started off with day jobs. So I just want you to let you know that you are in very good company, and it doesn't have to be a limitation. I think it could actually be a strength in more ways than just your company surviving, but really training you to pay attention to what matters most and how to really focus your time and your energy in a way that is effective and impactful and that helps you get the move the needle done kind of activities and leave away all of the fluff. So my first question for you is, are you more of a morning person or an evening person? Meaning, do you find that you get like your best ideas and your clearest thinking and your most energy in the morning, or at night are you like, oh my goodness, I just can't go to sleep because this brain and I want to do all the things? Which type do you tend to be?
Morning, for sure. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. And then my second question was this: what kind of business are you starting?
I am coaching women to heal their relationship with food and with their bodies.
Beautiful.
So,
Okay. Love this. So morning person, and you're starting a coaching and an information service-based business. Yes? Okay. So here is my answer to your question. If I were you and I was you, this is what I did. I carved out non-negotiable time every single day. And for me, I'm a morning person as well. I still do this to this day when I'm working on big new projects that are apart from my day job of running the business. That non-negotiable time in the morning is miraculous. It helped me get my book done. It helped me create the new program that I'm inviting you. You need to get your butt in it. Time Genius. It has helped me accomplish every major thing that I've ever wanted to create and put out into the world, especially when I was short on time. And if it's okay with you, I wanted to actually share a little story from someone internally on our team who has been using not only the Time Genius methods, but this one in particular to create spectacular results. So she's a super high performer on our team. She's a senior editor and she loves writing. So not only does she support myself and our whole company with the writing, but she's also a brilliant creative writer. And one of her big dreams has been to write novels. She started waking up. She also has I think her toddler's 5 years old right now. So here's what she wrote. She says, I have a 5-year-old. So at 7 a.m., I need to be with her making breakfast. And she starts work for our company at 8 a.m. And she says that by the time 5 p.m. rolls around and her daughter's back home, that she is exhausted. And she's like, there's no way in hell I can write then. So she said, for the past 3 years, I've been waking up at 5:30 to prioritize my personal writing. She takes about 30 minutes to like wake up and have her coffee. And then she puts everything on do not disturb mode, like everything. And she does about 6 to 7 a.m. She writes consistently. She said she's published about 100,000 words over that time, outlined 3 books. She's actually sold one of her books to a major publisher. And she says, and keep my day job, which is her day job with me. And so she said, in order to do that, she's had to go to bed earlier. And that she said, this might be too much info, but she said, I started wearing a wristband that vibrates because when she gets up at 5:30, she didn't want to wake up her husband. And so with her wristband vibrating, that just allows her to do it and then to not cause problems in the marriage.
Yes.
So for you, my dear, have you or can you commit to carving out, even if it's a little bit of chunk of time in the morning, to start really hitting it with your business?
Yes, I can. And I'm going to have to look to the bedtime routine to be able to do it. Like it has to start. I have
Getting
to have
yourself
that
into
in
bed
mind.
earlier.
Yeah. And you know what? I have done it before. I know it's doable. It's like doing it on the length of time. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And, it's challenging and you won't have to do it forever. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it every single day of every single month of the entire year. But if you did that about 80% of the time and like 20% of the time, whether it's weekends or, there's something special going on and you're like, look, I need a minute.
Yeah.
My goodness, Dree, you will be shocked at how far you will get fast. And tell me if I got this right. You're a copy cure student, yeah?
I am.
Yes. So I love that. So that means that you've got all of the tools and you've got training there to really dial in your messaging. I'll tell you this. Whether it's Time Genius, which again is like an extraordinary program. I believe in all my stuff because it's really good. It works, right? I wouldn't be here if it doesn't. But B School is actually going to be brand new this year too. We're not doing that for another couple months, but we've rebuilt the whole thing from the bottom up. So it's like every single, and no one's seen it yet. So brand new. Yes.
Because I'm also a B Schooler. I'm
oh my gosh.
doing it all.
So then I didn't know that. So you'll have access to all that already. So that's coming for you. Yes,
awesome.
Exactly. So you're in on that as it is. But
brilliant.
I'm telling you, it's hard in the beginning. As you know, it's like you've got this beautiful job, which I'm sure you're grateful for because it pays the bills. And now it's about just expanding your capacity to focus and get things done. And since you're a B Schooler, you know this, we want to focus on the marketing and the money-making stuff first. There's going to be all the shiny objects that all the people are going to be like, you should be posting a gajillion times a day. Lady, you don't need to, as you know. This is about getting those clients, getting them in the door, and setting nice little goals for yourself every morning. Like, okay, if I know I'm creating this program, do I need the marketing? What do I need to do in order to get this business going even more?
Yeah. That makes so much sense. So then for me, the piece where I get a bit stuck is, as I said in my question, because I have so much I want to be doing. So I'm in talks to start a podcast. I'm writing a book. I'm interviewing a lot of women about their relationships with food and body and stuff to write a book about it. I'm also, I'm told, but you need to be growing your mailing list. No, you need to be nurturing your mailing list. So you need to be writing your newsletters and doing your thing. And it's like, but I want to do so much. What do I do first? What do I prioritize?
It's a great question. So I'll give you my opinion on that, and I have strong opinions. One, I think that you should always be nurturing and growing your list. Nurturing your list also helps maintain it, and it could be grow it. If I were you, I would have like one day at least a week that was all around that nurturing and that list growth. So I'd go there. Then in terms of a podcast versus a book, I would step back. And by the way, I can relate to this so well. My team knows this very well. I've got ideas coming out of every orifice all the time of all the things that I want to do. Thank gosh, I have learned over time that I can actually create more havoc and not get anything done with all of my ideas. So I've had to really discipline myself and step back and go, okay, what do I want most? In some seasons, I am excited about seeing financial expansion. When that's the truth, I know that the opportunity for me to make an impact and also to see our revenue grow is going to be around creating a new particular program, right? And I'm like, oh, well, that's going to be really fun. there's other seasons where I'm like, oh my gosh, like when everything is figure outable, when I was like, I knew it was time to write a book. I said, I know this is not the most lucrative thing. I know it's actually going to take a lot of time away from other things that could grow the business in different ways. But I knew the long-term growth and the long-term impact of that particular project was worth the sacrifice of a few years of me putting my head down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'm going to invite you to do, Dree, is really take some of this time in the morning or even in the evenings when you're showering, when you're walking around, when you're doing something that's maybe not at the computer. And rather than letting the spinny, like, oh my God, I have so many ideas, listen to the quiet higher self and tap in and say, hey, if I were going to move ahead with just one project for the next 6 months, which project is going to make the most impact for me? What do I want the most? Is it to have that audience growth from a podcast? Are you like, oh my gosh, I just can't wait to start a podcast? Or are you starting a podcast because someone told you should start a podcast? Or you're like, oh, it kind of sounds like fun and I think I should. Or is it like, oh my gosh, if I had this book, the book would change everything. It would increase my credibility. It would allow me to get on other people's podcasts, which would grow my list. It would sell my other. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. Yeah.
So I want you to start stepping back and not only tapping into your higher self, but tap into your strategic self too. The one who thinks about, okay, what sequence should this go in? Right? What's going to get me to the place that I think is most important to get to? What feels the best? Where do I have the most juice? What's going to make the most impact? And again, if it's important to you, what's going to make the most money? It may or may not be significant for you right now, but I think it's an important thing to look at.
Yes.
And to use those kind of questions as your filter questions to make a decision, because you can't do everything at once. It's going to drive you crazy.
No, why is that?
We're blessed. We're blessed as entrepreneurs with lots of ideas and lots of energy. We're blessed as creators to have all of these big dreams, but we have to learn the lesson of how to bring them to life joyfully. And in my experience, it's not about spinning, 15 different plates at once. 3 or 4, maybe.
Yeah.
If we're 1 or 2, awesome, because we can get something done, we can complete it, we can ship it, and we can move on to something else more quickly.
Yeah.
That requires discipline and discernment, which you have that potential in you, but I think you might need to strengthen that muscle.
Yeah, that was very much at the heart of my question. I think just, is it a matter of following the excitement, following the energy, even if, conventional business wisdom or whatever says like, but you're not going to make any money straight away if you focus on your book or but when I feel that excitement, it's like,
correct.
Feels alive,
If it feels alive and you are going into a project eyes wide open, that's what matters most. So I've made many decisions in my business career that on paper didn't seem like they were the wisest business choice, but it was the right business choice for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So as long as Dree, you are going into these decisions with eyes wide open, like, hey, a book, in my opinion, most of the time, unless it's self-published, a book is mostly a big business card. It's not the kind of thing that, unless you become a Stephen King or an Elizabeth Gilbert, and by the way, not to say that you can't, but I don't hear from you that that's necessarily your aspiration. It feels to me like you have this beautiful message that could transform your ideal customers' lives, and you want to have it in book form so it can be accessible to even more women. Would that be accurate?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it is a beautiful tool that can help get you on podcasts, that can help introduce you and your work and your methodology to a larger number of women. I think it's incredible, as long as you know that putting effort and energy and time into this isn't necessarily going to have an immediate financial gain. It will be a tool that helps you grow that business in many ways that are far beyond just the book.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. That makes complete sense. And it makes even more sense if I suddenly open that window of time in the morning to be able to do some of that and,
That's right.
nurture the list that I do have. Yeah.
That's right. And you did those two things and you'd be like, wow, I am making huge progress on my book. I am nurturing the list that I do have and ideally doing a couple of strategies to grow it. Then all of a sudden, whether you choose to go to a publisher and you want to do a more traditional deal, or honestly, these days, sometimes it's much more lucrative and much faster and you can just get things out in a much quicker way, to have a version of self-publishing, or there's kind of hybrid versions that exist now.
Yes.
That's something that you might want to consider because it can be win-win all around. And I think that having all of these considerations for you in play is going to help you take that beautiful chunk of sacred time in the morning and feel really good about how you're using it. And the one last thing I'll say is the ideas won't stop coming, right? This is a beautiful gift that you have. This is a gift that we share as entrepreneurs. What I do is I collect all my ideas. I'm like, oh, just this morning, I'm going to be honest with you. Before we got on this, I was on GoDaddy buying yet another domain name. It's like, I'm not addicted to many things, but my goodness, I am addicted to domain names because I had an idea for another book or / program. So figure out a beautiful way for you to capture and hold those ideas, whether it's a Google Doc or a journal or someplace where you don't necessarily feel like you're like, but I gotta do it right now. And if I don't do it right now, it's gonna go away. Where you just want to hold them in their beautiful little holding pen. And you're like, no, mama is working on the book right now. Book's gonna get the attention. And then when you've got a little bit more time up, you can go, take a look around in that little pen of ideas and go pluck one out.
I really, really love that, actually. It feels like if I found a way to, rather than have everything swirling around in my head, and I've noticed that so many times before, but just writing everything down, capturing the ideas, having it's just like, okay, I can see they're not going anywhere.
Right.
If they've got
They're
life
safe.
and juice to them.
That's right. They're
fine.
safe. You're not losing them. And for me, again, as someone who can battle ADHD and just being like, whoa, there's a lot happening up here.
Yeah.
It has been one of the most therapeutic and soothing and peacemaking activities that I can do is like write it out, get it out of my head, get it onto the paper, get it onto the page. And then again, if there's a simple action I can do, like buying a URL, I'm going to do it because I don't want anyone else to scoop up that URL.
Of course.
But after that, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna stay focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Thank you so much. That really
You're welcome.
clarifies a lot of things.
Yes, and have fun. Make that morning time. What I do is like this morning it happened. Where I am right now, like my lawn furniture was uncovered and it started raining, and I was like, oh, I need to like get up. And it was earlier than and I'm like out in the dark covering my furniture, but I'm like, I'm going to turn this into a party. I'm going to make my coffee. I put on beautiful music. Kuma was hanging out with me. So set yourself up, Dree, to have like the most magical morning. If it's a little earlier than you're used to waking up, get your coffee or your tea or like whatever your morning drink of choice is, like set up your area where you're going to work the night before. So you come down the stairs or you come into that little space feeling like a queen.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so good to get that hour or hour and a half or half hour, whatever it is, that little amount of work done. And then you can shift into getting ready for your day job and walk into that day job feeling like a boss. Like I did this and now I get to show up here and contribute here and you're going to feel so good.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I wonder, can I ask you, what time does Marie Forleo get up? Like what time do you wake up?
Yeah, it varies. It can be anywhere from like the 5 a.m. range to like the 6 a.m. range. And that usually depends on, honestly, the time I went to bed the night before and what big project I'm working on. So usually for me, after I have created something, like right now, I'm in the finishing up of all of the new B School stuff.
Yeah.
Once I've completed everything that I'm doing here, I'm going to need a minute, like a couple of weeks where I'm not waking up every morning and like going for it just to give my brain that reset. And I found over the years that really helps. So it might be like 2 or 3 weeks where I'm just like, I'm waking up and I'm taking my walk or I'm doing my journaling or my meditation. And then I can kind of get back into another mode, but usually between 5 and 6 a.m., depending on the seasons and like how my body's feeling.
Yeah. See that, because that was, if you don't mind, it's just the one last thing that's been around this whole question is simply the energy, the energy fluctuations. The having a day job means that it can feel like there's so much pressure on the days that I have free to work on my business to be like,
Super productive.
100%. And it can be like, I can be feeling just ill that day or not well or really tired. And it's like, it's that management of refueling, making sure I look after myself, making sure that sometimes I step away as well.
Yes.
And I just wondered if you have any thoughts around that.
Absolutely do. I'm going to tell you my thoughts around that. And then based on that question, that last part of that question, I am giving you my heartiest invitation. Please join us for Time Genius.
Great.
It will I'm not saying this selfishly. If you signed up and you're like, this shit sucks, you can get your money back in a second, which has been experience in my programs, right?
Yeah,
we overdo everything in the best way. So here's my answer. We live in a culture right now that is very much drowned in messaging that if you're not hustling 24/7 on your business, that if you're not going for it at every waking minute, that you're lazy and you don't want it enough. And in my opinion, that is a really destructive message. It is a message that I kind of absorbed and thought was the truth and nearly killed me. And what I've discovered is that, on those days where it's like you don't have your day job, you may need a full weekend or 3 or 4 days where you need to clear your head. You need to rest. You need to be nourished by other things, other people, and have a complete break. So we human beings, we are amazing, right? I never want to put a limit on anyone, but when something starts to not feel right, you have to trust that. And it doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you lazy. The times when I have had that drumbeat of a message in my head, like, okay, every waking moment, every single thing you got to, it has grinded my creativity and my joy and my energy, which was a word that you mentioned, to a halt. And Josh is actually awesome with me on this one. And he can see and detect when I'm like going into a place where I'm like, I am withering. He's like, you need to either come to the beach, you need to do that. I'm like, you are absolutely right, because I'm going down a not so good place. And Dree, every single time I take that break, whether it's a day or 2 days, or like I was telling you, once I kind of complete a milestone, I give myself a little bit of a breather. And then I come back with monster energy and monster clarity. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to go, take 6 months off. Not that that's bad. If that was my choice, less. But usually it's like, honestly, a day or two, or maybe 3. And I come back and I'm like, what's up? It's a whole new thing. So on those times when you feel crunchy and you can tell that your body is starting to feel withered and your brain just can't take anymore, you need to take a break.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's what I basically burnt out, like at the end of my first year of getting things started, because I wasn't seeing my friends anymore. It was like, and suddenly realized, when was the last time I went for a coffee with a dear friend on that day, because I'm supposed to be working on my business. So, and it burnt me out completely. And I think that's what contributed to me actually asking you that question. So I was like, but how do you manage this?
No, sustainable success for me, it is the way to go. I am an extremely passionate, energetic person, and I'm also human.
Yes.
And I really have learned to not do the punishing version of success, to not do the punishing version all the time. It's like to really pay attention and to show up, to do all the things that we know to do to fuel our bodies, to take care of our health. All that's super important. That's why we're talking about sleep, right? It's like, I don't want you getting up earlier unless we're really accounting for it on the backside, so that you're taking care of what your body needs to feel and be its best. But definitely experiment with the amount of kind of free time that really helps you. No computer, no reading, self-development. You know what I mean? Just like really break away and then come back and you'll find the ideas and the energy are at a level 10.
Yeah. That's
Awesome.
that's
Thank
great.
you so much for such a
You.
fantastic question. I'm going to keep everything crossed. I'm going to see you in the fall in Time Genius, but either which way, this should give you a great little roadmap for how to get your most important projects done and to feel great while you do it.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Marie. This is great. And I wanted to show you, because I know you love the Smurfs, that I've been writing all of this on one of my favorite Smurf albums, which is in French.
What?
It's on my notes. This is the Smurf album. I
The
just want
Smurfs
to.
are the best. I didn't even know. I mean, this is the best thing ever. You might have heard me tell this story, but like I was one of the first official members of the Smurf fan club as a kid. They like would send out newsletters. There was no internet yet, but they sent out newsletters. Like they had a whole list and I was on their list and they sent me like
Of
a
course you were.
Velcro little wallet. It's the best thing ever. I was like, woo! I'm in the
Yes. So I
membership.
thought, you know what? I'm meeting with Marie. I'm gonna have my little my little album.
Oh my goodness, I love that conversation. I hope you did too. If so, let me know in the comments below. And by the way, if you want to radically increase not only your productivity, but your joy, 2 to 5x your creative output, earn more, work less, play more, come to jointimegenius.com. This program, it's mind freaking blowing. And I personally guarantee it. You can get your money back if you don't like it. So come join us for it. It will radically change your life. It continues to change mine. And until next time, stay on your game and keep going for your big dreams because the world really does need that very special gift that only you have. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon. One of the biggest differences that I made that allowed me to create the results that I'm really proud of is designing my day with intention.